We are back on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio, News Talk 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, and now in Albuquerque, New Mexico at 1000 KKIM. Our in-studio guest, Kern County District Attorney Lisa Green.
Lisa, how many district attorneys are there in Kern County?
Well, I am the only elected district attorney, but my office has 88 deputy district attorneys, and then we have two others that are in management, the assistant DA and the chief deputy DA, so a total of 91 of us.
So when I hear on the news that the district attorney prosecuted this individual or that individual, it's not necessarily you personally, it's someone from your office.
That's probably true. I imagine that I know about what's going on, but we have rank and file deputy DAs who handle the majority of the cases. Although I do handle a case.
You actually go to court?
I do.
Any particular type of case that you would take?
Yes, I've actually handled 3 since I was elected, but they didn't go to jury trial. But I try to handle cases that I handled when I was doing cases regularly. So I handled a felony child abuse, I handled a felony child molest, and right now I'm handling a rape case.
Wow.
Now, that's a good question, Clay. So let's say you decide not to run for re-election. That everybody else, the 81 deputy district attorneys, will stay there. In other words, you're the only one that may or may not leave, depending upon whether or not you run for re-election or not.
That's right. The whoever the elected DA doesn't have in this county, all the employees. None of the employees are at-will employees. It's different in a couple of other counties. I think it's Tulare and San Francisco, but whoever the DA is doesn't change may change policies and those kinds of things, but the personnel, there's no change in personnel.
Do you find being a DA has really increased the amount of work, especially since I understand you haven't been able to get the budget that you really needed to meet your responsibilities and requirements?
I'm actually really not complaining about the budget. I think the Board of Supervisors, last year, I went to them with a need, and they funded a position, a lifer attorney position that we've had great success with, and I'm very grateful for that. So I myself have not experienced that from the Board of Supervisors, although quite honestly, there are other needs in the office, and I'll be talking to them about that for the 2013-2014 budget year.
Now, you also have a criminal lab. Are you responsible for managing the lab as well?
Well, yes and no. That is a budget unit that is under my direction under this district attorney's office. So in terms of the budget, the assistant district attorney, Scott Spielman, actually is directly over the lab in terms of dealing with the issues that come up over there. And we have hired a lab director who came in about 14 months ago, Dr. Miller, and he deals with the day-to-day direct supervision of the lab. But if you ask me, do I know what's going on in the lab? I know what's going on in the lab, yes.
Well, I see these TV shows, and they're fascinating to watch. Now, is all that true about how these labs work, or is that just fantasy?
Well, it doesn't happen in an hour, I can tell you that. DNA takes a lot longer in reality to get that done. But the lab, we are very, very fortunate in Kern County to have the Kern Regional Crime Lab. And I say that because there's actually only 2 other district attorney's offices in the state in which the lab is under the auspices of the district attorney's office. The rest of them are run through sheriff's departments or law enforcement agencies. So I think it's a real asset. We don't have to wait in line for our work to get done. It gets done. We're doing some great things in the lab, and we definitely could use more personnel over there. That'll be one of the discussions for the budget for next year.
Now, I grew up on Quincy. My kids grew up on CSI. Clay grew up on Dragnet, so it's a little bit of a different.
It's a great show.
So it is a great show.
So you're running again for re-election in 2014, or
I haven't made that announcement officially yet.
Shoot, I thought maybe we were going to get a scoop here, Clay. I tried.
So
I doubt it.
But that's when your term is up, is 2014.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Although actually, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your predecessor was a DA here forever, it seemed.
28 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Somebody just told me the other day, they're talking about responding to gang issues, and And they mentioned that towards the end of his career, Mr. Jagels started being really involved in that. And I said, well, I don't have 28 years in office. I need to get going on that now. So I feel like we're trying to address some of those
Sure.
issues that are impacting, citizens of this community.
How is the relationship between the district attorney's office prosecuting cases and, let's say, the sheriff's department or the police department? Because I'm sure there's some frustration if you don't want to prosecute a case that they might have brought to your attention.
Well, I didn't bring the numbers. That's a really good question, Clay. And what I would say to you is the law enforcement requested in 2012 that we file 17,000 cases. 17,000.
Wow.
We filed 8,000. So it's very common, and that's what people don't understand, for the district attorney's office to, we call it, reject cases based on many factors: insufficient evidence. We don't believe we could convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt. There's a lot of factors. So of course law enforcement is going to be unhappy in some of those cases, and we try to keep an open mind. We try to have an open door policy to where if they feel very strongly about a case, they can come in and go up the chain of command and discuss that with the supervisor or the assistant DA, whomever, to kind of say, please take another look at this.
We're having a conversation with Kern County District Attorney Lisa Green. So on that same line, one of the reasons I imagine you can't go after 70,000 people is you just don't have the budget for it, especially with all these other constraints that you have with the propositions and everything.
I want to make it really, really clear that no one in this county is not prosecuted because we don't have the budget. We may be straining at the seams, so to speak, but we file every case we think that we can prove and attempt to obtain justice for every victim. So cases are not going unprosecuted because of budgetary reasons. I really want to be very clear about that.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like in Kern County we have a tremendous number of hit-and-run accidents. We have a tremendous number of drunk driving charges.
We do.
And we've got people out who have had 2, 3, 4 drunk driving charges. Why are they still out driving a vehicle?
Well, if you get a fourth DUI, just driving under the influence without anyone being injured, you can charge that as a felony, and we do. We do. We actually have a special unit, a grant unit from the Office of Safety and Traffic, where we have 2 dedicated prosecutors full-time handling felony DUIs and also the felony vehicular manslaughters, where basically someone is killed because a drunk driver or an impaired driver got behind the wheel of the car. So we put a dedicated effort towards this, and the results, so dedicated in the sense that not only is it 2 prosecutors, but they're trained prosecutors, and we've had excellent results in those cases. And because I think that driving under the influence is just the victims are so random in that. I mean, you go out to run to the store or go to visit, your kid at school, and there's someone out there who's been drinking or impaired, and how do you protect yourself from that type of person? So,
and 4 of them, I mean, that's outrageous.
Well, it is, and I've heard it said that if you're many people, if you are arrested a second time for DUI, it probably means you have. You're an alcoholic.
You have a problem, yeah.
Right, because think of the number of officers on the street. They do a fantastic job in this county, but there's many more citizens out there. And so if you're getting stopped, then you really do have a huge problem. And so now, and most, talking about realignment, those offenses, felony DUIs and the vehicular manslaughters, are still eligible for state prison.
Okay.
You mentioned schools earlier. How do you prosecute kids in school who are arrested for driving while drunk, let's say, or drugs? Drugs seems to be a prevalent problem nowadays in the schools.
Well, we staff juvenile court and with 2 attorneys, and they're entitled to attorneys as juveniles, as minors. Probation takes a very active role. The probation department in Kern County takes a very active role in recommendations, and there's 2 judges. I believe there's 2, a judge and a commissioner at juvenile court, who, hand down appropriate sentences. They're actually not convictions; they're called adjudications. But all crimes involving minors, for the most part, are handled at juvenile court, and of course, all those proceedings are confidential.
Going back to AB 109 for a moment, there was something in there about mental health requirements. Are you familiar with that?
Only in the sense that the state left it up to the counties to develop programs. So the sheriff, along with Dr. Waterman, the head of mental health, have instituted some programs within the jail. So when they're actually in custody, they can obtain counseling for substance abuse or whatever, mental health issues. But that's kind of a whole nother component, and I don't know that it directly, told the counties to address mental health issues, but obviously some people who are committing crimes do have severe mental health issues.
Because the state supposedly was taking care of that in the penal system and didn't really do a very good job of it.
I think that's what the thought is, that they felt the counties could do a better job handling those issues than they could at the state level. That remains to be seen, to be honest with you, in my opinion.
Yeah. When we come back on the break, let's go back to Prop 36 for a moment. Okay. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio News Talk 1180.